right, cameras are recording.
Good.
Are you ready, Mike?
I am ready.
Turn the jet engine off back there.
Yeah, the hoof doctor lady said, I told her how much we'd been doing it for 2 years. She says, most podcasts never make it anywhere.
I told you, you know, as soon as you can get through, and I've said this the other day, the first 8 episodes, and you still want to do this? Not you, I'm talking about everyone that starts
She
a podcast.
said most of them never make it to 6 months.
No, and those are probably people doing it once a month, maybe.
Right.
So, there you go.
We are rocking this thing.
Dedication, baby. Is that what it's called?
It's called something.
All right, here we go.
The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the final episode of Season 7.
This will be it.
This will be it. Equine Dynamics is the #1 podcast to create sound of horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. On this week's show, talking terminology, the curvature of a spine, and also proper ballot movement, chapter 16, the Marsha Story, the last chapter of Tony Gonzalez's book. And also, Mike wants to wrap up on everything that we've learned this past season, and also how Tony's training has involved, or his thinking has involved after publishing the book of the proper balance movement. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I am doing good, Travis. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Mike, did you think we'd make it this far? I think I said that to you at
I
the
didn't
beginning.
think I'd make it up your stairs.
I think you said I said that to
A few
you
weeks ago, I was really wondering.
Yeah, your hip was all out of place and everything. And I think after season 1, after doing 12 episodes of season 1, I think I came back on season 2. The first thing I said, Mike, did you think we'd make it this far? And I'm going to tell you again, Mike, do you think we'd make it this far?
Like I said,
I had confidence in the whole entire.
well, I'm glad you prodded me along with your cattle prod.
Well, you know, and I was talking to a bunch of people, and they were saying, you know, I've got some other people that are interested in starting podcasts and everything,
Right.
and I've been doing this for many years. And, you know, when Mike came to me, I said, okay, you know, we can do a podcast, we can do a show, we can do this. I said, but, you know, normally, traditionally, if you can get past 8 episodes, you know, you're in it and you still have the desire to do it. I know a lot of people drop out starting podcasts. Oh, yeah, I'll get a microphone, I'll get a camera, I'll hit a couple buttons, and I'll be famous. And then after like 6 episodes, we're like, God, this is a lot of work. And Mike, you bring a lot of work and a lot of knowledge to this podcast. So our listeners appreciate that. We appreciate you here at the Equine Dynamics studio, I guess you would say.
Yeah,
So,
or Travis Studios, yeah.
all right. So we appreciate you. And hopefully, well, we're going to take a quick little break after, just to give you a little update. We're going to take like we always do, we take a couple weeks off and then come back after the first of the year with brand new stuff and a lot of stuff to talk about. But let's talk about this show right now. Mike.
Yes.
Did you go see Diego's leg after I told you the whole sob story about the swollen?
I did not go see Diego's leg. I did call the trainer.
Okay. Well, what happened was I misspoke and I thought it was the hind leg. It was actually the front leg.
Right.
And he's doing well. So I know everyone out there was worried and stuff. I say he's doing well. So
Is it costing you money?
Well, let me get to that point here in just one sec.
That's what his job is.
So don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video, and you can see us over on YouTube. The way you see the video is to go to YouTube, search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine, and make sure you subscribe over there, and you can see all the little visual stuff that we have going on here in the studio. Any kind of film footage that we have or any kind of x-rays, you can see them as we're talking about them here. Now this is a great time to go over there right now if you're not watching us, is Diego, his second or third day back from this training facility, right? It was a cold winter morning. And
Yes.
and the sun was rising in the east or the west. I forget where the sun rises.
It rises in the sky somewhere, yeah.
And
Depends which way you're facing.
Diego had his nice winter blanket on. Mm-hmm. And, you know, what's the old the adage saying the grass is always greener on the other side?
Right.
So Diego when he got back to his pasture, and he's roaming free and walking around and stuff at this facility that he's at, he decides to say, hey, that grass over there on the other side of the fence looks good.
Right.
Now, the people at this training facility is very smart. They put a hot wire on the fence, just like we have out here. When we rebuild our fence, so the horses wouldn't lean on the slats and stuff and push the fence down. So they have a hot wire on the fence out there to keep the horses off the rails. Well, Diego's got this nice fluffy blanket on. And so he starts leaning on the fence. Now I'm going to switch cameras here. Let's see. I'm going to go to this camera here. I hope this will. No, let's go to this one. This one. I don't have the other one hooked up. Uh-oh. Take your time.
I forgot something.
What did you forget?
Airplane mode.
Oh, there you go.
Airplane mode.
Okay. So if you're watching this on the video here, Mike, what are we looking at here?
Nice.
So what happened was
someone has done some fence work.
Diego was leaning on the hot wire, and since he had his nice fluffy jacket on, he leaned on the hot wire so much the jacket was keeping it from touching his skin.
Right.
So he didn't realize it. So he, of course, he's 5 years old. He doesn't know his own strength. He pushed through all the rails of the fence to get to the grass on the other side.
Good boy.
Now, I know, good boy. You asked me if he's costing me any money. I don't know if this is costing any money or anything like that. But what happened was there are at least 13 horses at this facility.
Yes.
Now, the whole entire property is fenced in. So even if he gets out of this pasture,
He is inside. You have to go through a gate and all that to get in and out of the property. For sure.
So when the barn hand that lives on the property went out to feed in the morning, she's got the stallions and stuff over here, and she's got the mares and stuff over here. They're attacking, Mike.
I put it on airplane mode. I guess they'd already left that. Sorry.
Muskets at dawn.
Okay. Let's do this.
Okay.
Aren't you glad you got me for help?
Yeah. So, the stallions over here and the mares are over here, and they keep them separated. So the barn hand who lives on the property went out to feed that morning. There's Diego standing with all the other stallions, but on the outside of the fence. She's like, hey, what are you doing outside of your crib? So that's just to warn you out there, for all those people out there that blanket their horses. This is something I wouldn't even thought of. He's still young enough where he hasn't really had a whole lot of interaction with a hot wire fence.
Right.
And so he's had this blanket on, and this is the damage that he's done on one of the property's fence. It looks like he knocked a couple rails down. It looks
he did. Good boy.
It's a vinyl fence, so I'm sure that'll be easy to mount back up and clean back up. So that was the story. Amy came back and she says, your son, your pony was a bad boy. I said, how is he my pony when he's bad? When he's bad, he's my responsibility. And then, that's what happened. So keep in mind out there the cold weather out there, and having your horse blankets on if you have a hot wire fence. All right, guys, we have a lot to talk about, lots to get into. It is we are wrapping up season 7 for the year, but we've got a lot more coming up. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. If he can keep his damn phone off.
It is all the way off now.
Okay.
You may listen to the message during the next section.
Unless it's something cool and funny.
Oh, I doubt it is.
It never is, right?
No.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you have a question for Mike Stine, the way you get a hold of him is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contact us. Fill out that little form. Make sure you put a return address, and we'll send you out some magnets and stickers. Unfortunately, if you don't get it in now, you're not going to have any little extra stocking stuffers from Equine Dynamics. But
that will really break the hearts of all the little kitties.
I didn't get my magnets. I didn't get my keychains. But we'll still send those out to you no matter what. You can just say that Santa was a little late getting them to you, but make sure you put a return address in there, and we'll send them out to you right away. And over to my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
Did you figure out your phone issue over there?
I figured out that I turned it all the way off.
Rule number 1, airplane mode. Rule number 2, don't touch the phone.
Apparently, if somebody calls you and you put it on airplane mode, the message will still alarm.
Oh, well, I guess. Well, that's an iPhone for you.
Yeah.
Now, We have a segment that we call Talking Terminology. Now, Talking Terminology, just to give you a little background of what it is. If you're in the barn and someone like your farrier, your vet, or someone in the area says a term and you're not too familiar with it and you want to know without, being outstandish and saying, hey, what do you mean by that type deal? Well, we kind of take the mystery out of some of the words that are being spoken in the barn and also correct some of the slogans and phrases that are being used in the barn. Some people might not be using them correctly. We just want to give you a clear headspace to figure out what these terms are, and we give you the definitions on them. This week's term in Talking Terminology is curvature of the spine. Now, I know it sounds simple. I've got curvature of the spine, but Mike, what is the actual definition of curvature of the spine when we're talking about the biomechanics of a horse?
Well, with a horse, if you look down their back, horses are all born, they're a little twisted. Some of them never quite straighten out. Is dropping a hip, he will roll his barrel away, and that can create a curve in the body. Now, can he square up and straighten up? That's the big question. Have you shot an arrow?
I have shot an arrow when I was 13 in what they had instead of Cub Scouts, the YMCA had something called Indian Guides.
Yeah.
So that's the only time I shot an arrow, and I think it had like a rubber tip on the end.
Well, that's no fun.
Well, they don't want you to
shoot it straight up in there and see where it's going to come down.
Poke your eye out, kid.
But if an arrow is bent, when you release it down there through the air, it does not fly where you want it to. If your horse is crooked, twisted, something like that, as far as how they track, will kind of simulate the arrow. That's one of the best ways I've known to describe it. But, when you're looking at a horse, you want them straight, square up top. And if not, that's where some of the stuff that we do comes in to help get them mechanically where they can take care of themselves and get them straightened up so they can perform more evenly.
Now, Mike, you might not know the answer to this question, but you know a lot more than I have as far as like the history of the horses and how they used to shoe horses and how they used to correct things such as curvature of the spine. So has there been anything where I picture like the medieval times where if you wanted to be taller, they put you on the rack and stretched you, they would literally stretch you to make you taller. Is there anything that they used to do with horses when they had that curvature of the spine where they would take, in my mind, I would think of like, a couple 2x6s and slap them to the each side of the horse and tighten them together to make sure it kind of straightens that spine up, almost putting like a bracket on the horse to straighten the spine up? Or is this something that is strictly on the ground type mechanics that you have to fix?
No, we work with chiropractors. We work with other body workers. There have been some things done in past history that were kind of really rude.
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting at.
I've heard of cases where somebody tied a horse to a fence post, good stout post with a good stout lead, and ran them backwards to straighten their neck out. And
does that work or not work? In theory, you would think it would work, or in theory, you were just going, that's rude to the animal.
It's just rude to the animal. They probably damaged some animals, hurt some animals doing that one if that was done. And I've never actually seen it. I've heard people talk about it a long time ago, but hopefully we've gotten beyond that. But as far as them curving their spine, if I've got a horse that's off and dropping a hip, they will roll their body away from that hip as the hip collapses typically. And if I can get him happier on that leg and get him using that hip and get it built back up, as he comes back on it, it's just like if you're sitting here and you drop one hip down, what happens to your body? And if you get it strong and build it back up, your body will start centering up.
Yeah, they put like
and some of it's just rolling the barrel away because the hip drops.
If you're a human, they put like a riser in your shoe to make you walk to kind of.
Right. And with Tony earlier on, that's where he was working. But later in his career, he actually got away from was getting away from the lifts. But a lot of people don't know that because, several years after, like 10, 12 years after, 14 years after the book was published, it was rare to put a pad on a horse. And at this point, I almost never do. The more we figured out mechanics and ground forces and brought podiatry into it and everything else, the less you need to lift one unevenly. And the problem with lifting them unevenly is they're kind of locked into that pressure till you take it off.
Now, when a baby's born, you say it's all twisted up. And I know you've said this many times before, as soon as the horse is born, let it get toward a sort of untwist.
Unwind it.
Yeah, unwind it and stuff. How soon should you start be looking at the, hey, we've got a problem with this horse? Or, hey, give him a couple more weeks, let him grow into his body, let him, like we said, let the foal unfold.
Sometimes, if horses are babies that are kept in a stall versus babies that are out and moving, and, the wild horses, from some studies that I've seen, this goes back to Overnak's work and all that, the mares in the wild will have the baby and then move the baby away from the placenta, usually for about 2 hours right after they're up and born, maybe slowly, but they move them. And during that moving, and they had been doing some experimenting with, some test horses where part of them were moved, part of them were not. They had a 8th mile track, and they changed directions. And the babies that got out and moved that 2 hours slowly were a lot straighter and a lot more athletic was what they were coming to. And now this was a small test group. This was a dozen or so doing it, a dozen so where babies were raised in the stall. Mm-hmm. But later on in the horse's life, the ones that were out moving were probably more athletic, stretched out. They aligned things themselves. But if we don't allow them to move, they don't get a chance to do that. And in that first few hours, that body can shift around a lot. But what the wild mares, they leave the placenta on the ground for the coyotes to eat, move the baby away from it for the safety of the baby. The domestic horses don't have to do that.
I know when we had Pepper here, and it was a 2-for-1 buy. We didn't know she was pregnant.
You're lucky.
And she was, as the owners or the people that we bought them from was leaving the driveway, they were like going, hey, by the way, she might be pregnant. See you later. And so sure enough, 6-8 months later, she had a baby, which we call Cayenne, which is still here on the property. Mm-hmm. And when she was born, within hours, she was running up and down the pasture and kicking and
still running up and down the pasture kicking. And
she is. Yeah. And, so we got the vet to come over, and the first thing the vet said was, where's the placenta? He wanted to see the placenta.
Right.
And I didn't think anything of it, as far as like you were saying about the coyotes and everything. But he picked the placenta up, and he looked to see if there was any bruising on the placenta, if there was any tears in the placenta,
right.
Meaning that she had a good carry and a good birth at the same time.
Right.
And from my observation as far as Cayenne, I don't think she doesn't have curvature of the spine, and we've never done anything. She's not broken.
She's got a spicy attitude.
She does have a spicy attitude, hence the name Cayenne. But we have never done anything to her. Mike, you've only been trimming her feet. She's not broken. She is somewhat obedient on a lead line, but
she wants to be.
Yeah, she is a miniature horse. She's not a pony. She's a miniature horse, and they tend to have a little bit of a snarky attitude anyway. It's that little man syndrome I think they have. But her spine, for the most part, from what I can tell, and you see her more than I do, believe it or not.
She's pretty straight.
She's pretty straight.
Yeah.
And we didn't do anything at all other than, like I said, when she was born out in the pasture, and she went
out and did her thing.
Yep, and got straight right out of the bag, literally out of the bag. All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, we're going to talk about Marsha Story, the last chapter of Tony Gonzalez's book about the proper balance movement of a horse. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Marsha Story. I wish I had a book. Oh, I don't have to have a book. I have to read this.
Okay.
I was looking for the book.
I can get you the book. I can turn my phone back on, too.
No, that'd be 2 no's on that one.
I'll be all kinds of help.
Yeah.
I'm good at it.
How was the last show? Well, you ever seen that plane that went down that...
The movie Airplane, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Where are the restrooms? Over there. All right, you ready? Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Make sure you follow him over on Facebook. Search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. And Mike, you're still posting a bunch of different articles up there. A lot of interesting articles that I've been reading and everything. And have you talked to your sales office, or you're not your sales office manager, your office manager, Is she fixing this, or what are we doing with her?
We have it in the works.
Okay.
We have it in the works.
So there has contact been made.
Contact.
Okay.
Yes.
So hopefully by next season, I can just send everyone to Equine Dynamics instead of them sending them all over the road and everything like that.
I send them all over the road when I'm driving.
So when you're looking for Mike Stine over on Facebook, it's Mike Stine, Stine. There you go.
There you go.
Did I spell that right? I look at it every day and I still can't spell it right. It's only 5 letters. So find him over on Facebook as well. Make sure you like him over there. And
how many words can you make out of that?
I don't know. There's probably a couple jumbles in there.
Yeah.
And over on my far right hand side, our very own jumbled farrier is Mike Stine. How are you?
I am jumbled. How are you, Travis?
I'm doing all right. Now, this whole season and part of last season, we were talking about Tony Gonzalez, who was one of Mike Stine's many mentors that he had getting into the farrier game. Tony Gonzalez has taught Mike a lot about padding horses, why they pad horses, and why he's gotten away from padding horses, and all the different attributes as far as the biomechanics on how to start with a horse from, treating the feet, treating the on up the body, and asking the question why. Why is this? Why is that? And Tony Gonzalez unfortunately passed away in 2000. But his book and his legacy still lives on, and Mike just wanted to share a couple of his things, his chapters out of his book, so we kind of focus on that here on Season 7. So this is the last chapter of the book, and it's called Marsha Story, and the basic story about a 9-year-old jumping horse who had been doing well in competitions, but recently had begun resisting the rider's directions, changing her lead up at the jump and bucking to the other side. By looking at the entire horse carefully, as well as checking on the saddle fit and watching the rider, Tony was able to help the horse and the rider to get back to winning competitions. This story, again, illustrates how conformation, underdeveloped muscling, and overstretched muscles, as well as saddle fit and rider position, can affect a horse's performance and even soundness. So, Mike, discuss your views on what we're talking about as far as Marsha's story and the vertebrae problem that the horse was having.
Well, if you follow the story, she was jumping and, showing, and she started bucking, and she started protesting the saddle being put on. And she ended up had a knot on the back, and people said, well, there's a rib out. We have, and this was working with Ray, of actually my last trip down to New Zealand, had a horse with a rib out. And we did the horse was barefoot, it wasn't, then we put a shoe on the horse. Ray was doing the body work. He says, I got a rib out, and he says, I want to try something. Ray was totally blind anyway, and he had a huge amount of feel.
Now, when you say a rib out, I hear broken rib. How can a rib be out on a horse? Can a human have a rib out?
Probably.
Okay.
And if you've got a horse that is twisted hard, you can have one rib that is pushed out and up higher than the rest of them, and you'll get a bulge there. And that can cause some real saddling problems. That area will get sore, right?
Yeah, I think I've got
you were saddled up, yeah.
I think I got a rib out in my back.
Yeah, that's probably not a rib out. But, it could cause some saddling problems, and that'll change a horse's attitude and may end up changing your attitude and may create you trying to see if you can defy gravity sometimes.
So how did Tony adjust the rib that he thought was out?
Well, at that time, he was doing a lot of pad, lift here, lift there, do that sort of deal, right?
Right.
When I was in New Zealand with Ray, we were working with a totally barefoot horse. The objective was to keep the horse barefoot. And the rib was out. The horse would drop the shoulder that was diagonal to the rib that was out, right? Okay, then we talk about the horse twisting the barrel. And watching the horse move, the way it landed and had a little bit of a rotation, the leg, and where it was picking up pressure in the foot, it was literally a case of finding that pressure point and rolling it out with the rasp, walking the horse around, bringing it back to Ray. He went back to work, and he's like, what did you do? And I said, I just relieved pressure in the quarter, as I remember, at that side, because the way the horse was landing, and if you looked at what was going on in the coronary band at that point, there was a pressure buildup in the quarter band. The quarter was jammed up. The the quarter was hard. You could feel when you palpated the coronary band that spot was hard, so we relieved pressure under it so it could have some give. Walked the horse around, brought it both directions, brought it back. And he's like, what did you do? I said, why is that? He said, the rib's not out anymore. And we started looking at her. She had loosened up her shoulder. But the hard spot in the hoof, the pressure was probably, my guess would she was protecting that hoof.
Favoring it, yeah.
Favoring it. So she tucks up the shoulder, shortens it up, closing the shoulder angles. Because they get, Tony's all short leg, long leg, but now after working with Ray, you look so much at shoulder angles and all that because they can open and close, and that makes a total difference in the length on that corner, right?
Yeah.
So the horse started loading that leg, picked it back up just in that little bit, and the barrel was straighter and the rib wasn't pushed out. And, we actually just for the point of brought it back in, folded up a towel and threw it under the other foot. The opposite front foot, which put the horse back into that curved position. The rib popped out, took it out, and went back in.
My wife's got those 3-inch rubber, like almost silicone type pads.
Right, and that's not a bad thing.
Because if you can get the horse to stand on them long enough.
Get the horse to stand on them, and they'll put more pressure on the side they're heavy on, so they'll end up pushing that side down. In this case, the shoulder where that was dropped, as far as looking at the muscle structure, that one had been carrying less weight. So if they're standing there putting more weight on the one side, it'll compress more, and then that kind of evens them out and gives them a chance to adjust, and sometimes that's all you need.
Now, Dominique was our main horse that my wife used to ride. And now, is this a similar story of what happened to Dominique? Because Dominique, she rode very well. She was a good rider. She did have some little issues here and there, but it just couldn't.
Her problem's more in the neck.
Okay.
And of course, we had some people in taking a look at it, and we've decided because of the damage up there that she needs to kind of relax a bit. She's done her job.
Is it damaged, or can it be fixed with just more maintenance, massaging and chiropractic and adjusting?
You can get it fixed with that. If you've got weird calcifications problem, tendon ligament damage, that sort of thing, that's going to take a while if you can. But, there's a lot of these horses we can get going relatively easy. And in the case of this horse, the horse went off bucking, but, the horse was dropping the saddle out to one side, so the lady was throwing her hip back onto the diagonal corner of the saddle and then sitting down on that rib, and then the horse said, ooh, I don't like that.
It's a little tender.
Right. So they, in this case, they shoot the horse, they took the horse, they put it through the works, and like Tony had said, let's see what happens here. And the lady got on the road. The lady put it through the jumps, and up to a certain point, until after it went over a jump or two, it was doing the same thing. And after it went up the jump or two, the shoulder was moving, that was stuck, because I think that's part of what was going on. And then when that happened, the barrel straightened out. So the horse looked a lot better, started tracking straighter. I've had horses going over jumps that we had problems because they were pushing primarily off of one hind leg because they were twisted. And when we got them traveling straighter, boy, they got a lot stronger jumping. Go ahead. Same thing with working in 2008. I was working with a team horse for the U.S. Endurance team, and it was the exact same thing because the horse was running out of gas, but it was dropping a shoulder, and it was dog tracking. When we got the horse squared up, pushing straight, that horse, it made a big difference.
When you're working on Marsha's horse, and you were working with Tony down in New Zealand, and when you did
Ray in New Zealand.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ray in New Zealand. When you were messing with the
horse there.
No, I'm when you were messing with the horse there, and you were talking about you were rasping the foot down, and the ribs not poking out anymore. How long was that process from you taking it and adjusting the hoof to where the trainer was riding on that horse again?
Well, that horse we just hand walked.
Okay.
And
I'm sorry if I'm confusing the two stories.
The hoof that was rasped on was the one that was actually on the collapsed shoulder. So I took a little bit of foot off of the one with a collapsed shoulder, and she took it out, she walked it, she worked it, didn't do that much, lunged it a little bit in both directions, brought it back, and the horse squared up. Better for us. I'm not going to say perfect, but better. And it was literally find a pressure point, relieve a pressure point, and let's watch how the body reacts to it. I'm not going to claim anything magical. I'm going to claim that I'll take dumb luck anytime I can get it.
Right.
And so that if that gets them happy and it's that little bit, it's just paying attention to really fine details.
Now, Marsha's horse is doing well from
Tony's book.
From Tony's book, yeah.
Yeah, the horse ended up doing well for them. And, these odd things will always teach you something. Tony was very inquisitive, and he was hunting very hard. And he was always hunting for the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And as he progressed, he started finding out some things were a little different. And then, so what he was doing later in his career was a little different. Now, the kind of sad thing is, Tony had a few strokes. And then there were people that took Tony out teaching. And Tony kind of remembered what he had done when he had first started this trip down the road with a horse, right? And there was a big chunk kind of left out, as far as I see it. And then I know that there were people kind of telling him what he was doing, All
right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break, and we're going to dive into actually how Tony's train of thought has changed after writing the book and all the complications and issues that he had to deal with personally, as far as estimating or examining horses as well. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
Sorry, I'm getting all off course today.
That's okay.
Even with my cup of coffee.
Yeah, you were starting to get into the other story, and I was like, let's cut that off real quick.
Right. No, I think you're right.
All right. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you want to contact Mike Stine at any time, you can do that by going to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contact us. Make sure you fill out that little form. Ask us a question. We'll read it on the very next season, which is coming up here shortly. This is the end of season 7. So don't worry if you haven't listened to all the different episodes. If you're like, you guys keep pushing them out. Now's a great time during the holiday break is to go back and refresh yourself or just listen to them all over again. Start at season 1, where we actually meet Mike Stine and the evolution of the show for the past 7 seasons and all the information out there. So it's a great listen, and make sure you do that now. As we wrap up, not yet. We still got some more to talk about today. But
we're not done.
Yeah, no, we're not done, Mike. I know. The car's out front, still fired up with all the Christmas.
It's waiting on me right now.
It's got all your Christmas presents in there for you to hand out to all the little kiddies. And over to my far inside is Mike Stine.
Hello, Travis. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
We just met today.
Yeah, twice. All right, so now we're going to talk about, you started to get into it on last break, about Tony Gonzalez, and, before he went blind, and he was doing...
That was Ray went blind.
I wish you put name tags on these people. Now, before we get started, before Tony passed away...
Right.
He had this whole idea about how he would examine horses and how he would, determine this on a horse and determine that on a horse. And then unfortunately we lost him. He passed away. But after writing the book in the mid 80s, his train of thought started to change. And what influences his train of thought after writing this book when it came out? Now, not that the book is totally wrong.
No, it's not totally wrong, and occasionally we'll go in that direction, but you bringing everything else, you use a lot less pad, and I almost never do anymore. But Tony got involved with Clyde Caldwell. They were working back and forth. Clyde did a lot of chiropractic work along with being a farrier, and that started bringing in some more to Tony's world as far as that. And in my dealings, I had a lot of dealings with Clyde, and Clyde is also gone now. And between them, they were working on, can we do this without putting all those extras in there? And Tony was really starting at that point, starting to focus more on pressure points within the hoof. And the better you got at settling down those pressure points on the hoof, and people say, the hoof is balanced, which it kind of got to where Tony did not like people saying the hoof is balanced. And I kind of agree with him. We normalize the pressure in the hoof. There's no dead set balance because there's no dead set perfect limb column, right?
And I'm never balanced, and you're never balanced.
I am way off balance.
Sometimes.
Yes. So you work with what you got the best you can, right?
Yep.
But figuring out how to figure where you're getting pressure in the hoof, there's a diagonal relationship in the hoof. A lot of times, it's like a flare. You can dress a flare, dress a flare, dress a flare, and you can see in a hoof of flares there still because of what is going on at the top of the hoof head into the coronary band, where it all goes together. And learning to feel and palpate the hoof and see what it wants to do in your hand. And some of that's why people, I want to wear gloves. I don't wear gloves when I work on horses' feet because I want to feel every little thing I can.
And your hands represent that too.
Yes, they look beautiful.
Hand was showing up in front of the cameras there. See, mine are all nice and manicured.
Yeah, I'm a hand model. There's my newest thumbnail job. Anyway, I don't want to lose that because sometimes I pick up things, and especially working with Ray. Ray was totally blind. I had Ray doing a pretty nice job of trimming feet. And how did he do it? He's blind. He felt it. And trying to learn how to teach Ray to trim a foot and find the pressures, he felt the stuff going on in like around the coronary band or the side of the hoof, a wrinkle in the hoof, quicker than I did because he lived by feel, right? And then we were, okay, let's do this hoof. Let's look at the body. He was the body worker, saddle fitter, and all that. And we got where it was a big competition between us to see who was going to outsmart who. And we were like best friends, but we couldn't let one outdo the other, right?
Right.
And so doing that and that nice competitive friendship, and guess, you were trying to figure this out. Guess what I found? That kind of thing really helped develop what I'm doing. And I carry some of what I learned with Ray, with Tony, with Clyde.
I was going to say, who are like your top 5, top 10 mentors that you had? So you got Tony, you got Ray, you got Clyde Caldwell.
Dick Mansman.
Okay.
If anybody knows Dick, Central Carolina Equine, he ran the podiatry up at NC State.
And all these people you have they're not like far away mentors, like you've observed them from a distance. You have worked side by side with these people.
Doc Redden in Kentucky. Dr. Mansman was always kind enough to, when I was talking about something, some of these things like, how can you prove to me that leg is longer or shorter? Explain this make it make sense to me so I don't, because most legs, they're a little off the length of cannonball, and they're here, all this. And he was looking into the body, but he wouldn't just flat tell me this.
I would just grab a Stanley tape measure and go, there's one, that's not, and there's two sides. That would be me.
But then it's like, and what about, and this was about, I was dealing with that, and really before I met Ray. And what does, and it was kind enough, and what does the angulation of the shoulder have to do with it? And he already knew what he was doing, but this was the deal. And the same thing with Clyde was, and Tony, it was 500 questions. Because once I got to a certain point, when I go back and forth with the horse with them, it's like, what about this? What about, and Tony said, you must go all the way through the horse and ask the reason why. And when there's no more whys, you figured it out. And, but there's always a why and there's a reason. It's not, it's just that way. There's always a reason.
So you've lost, out of your mentors, unfortunately, you've lost Tony.
You've
lost Ray.
Lost Ray.
And you lost Clyde. Now, who are your mentors now? Because, it's, you're always, Mike, you're always looking for an answer. You're always furthering your education. So have you adapted or adopted other mentors, or is it?
Doc Redden has been a mentor since 1990, and the podiatry end of it. Ovanak has been a mentor of mine. We've been out of touch for a while. He did a lot of stuff with the wild horses. There's been many others out there, a lot of them
that you still stay in contact with. You can call them up at any time, and even if 2 years ago,
friend.
Yep, anytime 2 years have gone by or anything like.
And I tell you, I've got a fellow I have not talked to in a while that did a lot of padded horses. And people, why did you talk to him about it? Because you don't do padded horses. I'm like, no, but I've run into some questions, and they did a lot of pad work, and they to get a horse to gait, they need to be square, and the leg needs to come up and down the leg. Now they'll shim them and all that, and I played with shimming for a while, but the better I get about relieving pressures, I don't need to do it. With shimming, I ran into, later on, ended up with some odd compression problems.
And who is that you were calling with the pen?
Jim Crow.
Okay.
I met him when I went out, and I'd met Jim some years back out at the Laminitis Symposium, and then at other clinics and places. He was up at a big clinic we went to in Virginia, and then I went out and I'd done some work for Linda Pirelli a little bit, and Jim was out there, and then we really got going back and forth a little bit on it. And Jim was doing his clinics on the line of horse, but it was purely pad work, where Tony was getting away from it as far as I could see, and he did a lot of shims because if the leg wasn't straight, we shim it. Where the other end is, do we want to force that joint? And I know from working in vet clinics where we're shooting radiographs on everything, you don't always want to do that long term. But some of these show horses, if we get a couple hard years of showing out them, we're happy, and that's where they work.
Now, one thing I do want to point out, you say you've got all these different mentors and stuff. I just want to say to you, I've known you for 10
minutes.
10 and a half minutes. Actually 30 minutes since we've been doing the show. No, I've known you for a long time, even before doing this show.
Right.
And I've learned more dealing with you or talking with you. I value you as a mentor for me. I've seen you out at barns, not just ours. I'm talking about other barns and everything. And I believe in my vision, I don't know if you see this or not, I see the trainers look at you as a mentor as far as, your decisions on how do we address this. I know trainers look at you as a mentor as far as asking you questions and anything like that. And I know that riders and owners look at you as a mentor to make decisions on their horses, what's best for the horse or what you should do. So, well, even hold on, let me finish because I'm buttering you up here.
Lots of butter.
So even though
margarine?
You're the mentors that you have passed away, and you've still got a couple that you look towards. I don't think that you understand that there's a lot of people in the horse community that look towards you as far as information and what to do and the next step.
Well, I don't really see myself as a mentor because there's too many things I got to figure out yet.
I know that, Mike, but I don't think that you realize how important and how people value your opinion. I've heard it several times, even when you're not there in a barn. When I listen because that's my job. I listen to people and I listen to how people talk and stuff. Even though I'm not part of the conversation or anything, when they start talking about horses, because I want to learn as well, just like all our other listeners out there, whether they have horses or don't have horses, they listen to the show, hopefully to get some information. And I listen so I can get information. I hear people talk about, the horses and this is going on and this is going on. And I'll hear someone pipe up totally out of my circle of friends that will say, well, have you, who's your farrier? Is one of the first things they say. Well, I've got, Doug Smith. Well, have you had Mike Stine come out and look at the feet? Well, do you use Mike Stine as a farrier? No, because I'm not at that level that Mike Stine, needs to be on my horse. My horse is just a pasture horse type deal. Even the pasture horse people know who you are and they look for you for information. You had a lady the other day that just called from Georgia saying, hey, look, I found all this information on you and I want you to help me with my horse and I'm willing to bring my horse to you. So even though you've got all these different mentors that you look forward, there's a laundry list of people that are underneath, not underneath you, but that look for you for information. I just wanted to share that with you. Well, and I appreciate your I feel like you're mentoring me by doing this whole entire podcast.
Right. But one thing I will say, no matter what they're doing with a horse, it's a horse.
Yes.
If it's a pasture horse, it's a horse. I do and work on some pasture horses. And that's like I try to tell people actually remember Greg Coates?
Yes.
I was working with Greg earlier in my career, and he said, you're going to get worried about the price of a horse and you're going to make a mistake. And he's right. It doesn't matter if it's a $100 horse or a $100,000 horse. It's a horse. It's a horse. Mm-hmm. He said, you're going to get worked up about that because I was like, I got thrown in the middle of some expensive horses. I'm like, ooh, but he said, you do what you do. You're a solid farrier. He said, you're going to get worried about he's a this, he's a that, and you're going to quicken one because or something because you're worried about it and you're not on your game. It's a horse. Doesn't matter the price. Doesn't matter what they do. It's a horse. And you treat it as a horse, and you pay attention as it's a horse, and price tag doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I go in there and I'm asked to try to do my best for a horse. That's what I'm there for. try to help something out. Maybe this horse will be the one that teaches me something, because they have been my biggest mentors. The horse, the big teacher, right?
Right. All right, guys, stick around when we come back. One little segment, and we'll let you get back to enjoying your ponies. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Yeah, I figured I just tell that to you, Mike. So,
okay.
As far as being a mentor and stuff, I think you mentor me. Even through doing the show, just listening and stuff. I find it so fascinating.
Well, I tell people, I was just Union County redneck. I don't know no better. I know. I know. You play it down, but you don't understand that. That a lot of people do look up and look towards you for information. Well, I mean, some of us being silly enough to try something just to watch and see what happens.
Mike, just say thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just say thank you. All right. We'll come back and wrap up the show. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics. Let me make sure I got the right camera up here. Hold on before I get started. I get so excited. So excited.
You do get excited.
I do. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, you can have this show broadcast out at your location, your event. Just go over to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says clinics. Fill that out. We'll pencil you in. We're taking a couple weeks off. This is the last show for season 7. We're going to take a couple weeks off and come back in January full force. We've got a whole bunch of new guests lined up. We're going to be on location at several places. We're going to have some new guests here in the studio as well. We got a whole big laundry list. I already said laundry list. We have a whole bunch of things happening in season 8. So if you haven't got caught up with the show, now's a great chance to get caught up now. Learn all the names, learn all the slogans and the talking terminology. Get up to date on that during the holiday season, and then come back in full force in season 8 and join us. And joining us here in the studio is Mike Stine. How are you?
I am doing good, Travis. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right. And do me a favor, Mike. Just say thank you, Travis. That's all you have to do. Is just say thank you, Travis, and thank you to all our listeners and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I know
Thank you.
I was trying to give you a compliment, and some people like he's very modest and very humble, and he doesn't want to take compliments. I said, Mike, just say thank you. Just say thank you. All right, Mike, what did we learn today? Talking terminology, curvature of a spine.
Well, there are horses that have a curvature of the spine. There are people that have a curvature of the spine.
Like me.
And if somebody has a curvature of the spine and they're riding, it can push the horse where they are not straight. So we've got to be very careful with that. And also causing problems with saddle fit. And all this ties together to what is going on with horses' feet.
So when a baby comes out of the womb, it's already twisted. So you would want the horse not to be stall.
I won't. If I was breeding and I was breeding my perfect horse, well, there isn't one, except for the old Mustang I had. He's pretty sure he was perfect.
Yeah, everyone thinks theirs is perfect.
Right, but I would want them moving. I would encourage them to get out and move
and unwind
and straighten themselves out, and yes, people, oh my God, babies out bucking and running and cutting flips and everything else, don't want them to hurt themselves, and they do sometimes. Mm-hmm. But on the other end is they need to be a horse. They need to live like a horse. They need to grow up like a horse, and they need to be a horse. And they need an interaction with other horses so that they know their place.
They need to be a horse before they're a partner.
That's right.
All right, and the proper balance movement, the last chapter from Tony Gonzalez's book, chapter 16, Marsha Story and the Vertebrae Problem that she was having with her horse and the saddle making the horse buck and do funny things over jumps.
Right. She was having positioning problems with herself. She was having saddle problems. She was having attitude problems. And so many times with a horse, you'll see their attitude going downhill. He's just gotten nasty. He's just gotten... Sometimes it's pain. Horses will react to pain. Their attitude will get bad because of pain. So let's look and let's think and let's answer that question. Why is he acting that way? Why does he not like his saddle anymore? Why is he not moving like he used to? Why does he want to plant me in the dirt?
Yeah. And also all the different mentors that you have come across in your time and through your career, and the mentors that you had before, and how many you have now. Or who do you look for now?
I have...
Or look towards now?
A lot of people that I will ask questions. Just the other week I called an Amish farrier because I had something odd going on with a horse that had been a driving horse. And I was like, this is something I'm not used to dealing with. So these guys deal with it all the time. He's becoming a dressage horse. He drove until he was 12 years old, which I'm kind of scratching my head a bit. But the way his gait pattern was, I'm like, the way the back end, that doesn't match up to where I'm used to living. So let's talk to somebody who lives there. Because I was like, am I missing something? And I've got a lot of people I will call. I have friends that will call me, and I'm like, yeah, hey, tell me if I'm being an idiot. You know what I mean? Am I being stupid today? What am I not paying attention to?
And I'd like to reiterate again that how many people through the horse community, not just here in North Carolina, but all over, our listeners and stuff, whether they tell you or not to your face, whether they're talking behind you, about you in a good sense.
Throwing rocks at me.
There are a large handful of people, and I say handful using both hands, like the cup runneth over type deal, that look for you, Mike, as their mentor as far as making decisions or are giving them the best advice to make decisions, whether it be a trainer, whether it be a horse owner, whether it be a rider, or just anyone in general who is in the horse community. They all look towards you, Mike, as a mentor. So I just wanted you to say, I just wanted to say that to you, and you say...
They have really sad lives.
No, you have to say what I said before. You have to say...
Thank you.
All right, there you go. So,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
all right,
Thank
guys,
you.
that's going to wrap it up for Season 7. Don't forget, if you'd like to ask Mike Stine at any time, question, go to equinedynamics.com, and make sure you watch all the different videos that we've had here in the studio. Go to YouTube, search Equine Dynamics. Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Make sure you subscribe over there, and you can see the new videos. We got all the different little shorts that are up there as well, little 1-minute videos about little snippets that are happening through the show as well. Mike, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, there's something I think you're missing on that looking at me as a mentor thing. Uh-huh. It's a tormentor.
No, yeah, well, to some people, they might call you, they might mumble the tour part under their breath as they say mentor, but no.
I think they do.
Yeah, so there you go. So, guys, that's it for Season 7. We appreciate each and every one of you for listening to the show, downloading us, and being a part of the Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine experience. Like I said, go back and listen to all the past episodes from Season 1 all the way up till now during the holiday season. You can knock it out in a day or two, or a week or two if you just focus and do it. And we'll be back at the beginning of the year with Season 8. And like I said, we got a lot of guests coming into the studio, a lot of people that are going to be video calls, conference calls, and all that, and a whole bunch of different pictures and x-rays. So make sure you like and subscribe everywhere that you can find the Equine Dynamics show. On behalf of Mike Stine over there,
Have a good day. Enjoy your horses. Have some wonderful holidays. And we'll see you after the first of the year.
my name is Travis saying see you next year. There you go, Mike.
It is tormentor. Tormentor.
Good job.
I think we had a fun time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Gear's a little sweaty.
Yeah, a couple of those rounds at the end of the show, I was pretty cooked. You know.